We talk about the fear before the leap, the strategy behind the growth, and the legacy they're creating through their work. I'm your host, Katie Kim, and this is Real Talk with Katie Kim for people who want clarity, control, and a business that actually supports their life. Welcome back to Real Talk with Katie Kim. Today I'm sitting with John Scheeler of Scheeler Home Loans here in Peoria, Illinois. John has helped hundreds of people navigate one of the biggest decisions, one of the biggest financial decisions for sure they'll ever make, buying a home. He's built his business around clarity, transparency, and service. We're going to talk about the fear and risk that comes with going out on your own, the strategy behind how he's built Scheeler Home Loans, and the role Keller Station plays in what he's building next. John.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. We're excited to have you. So let's start before the business everyone sees today. So who was John before Scheeler Home Loans? What did life look like back then for you?
Well, I grew up on a small farm in rural Dunlap. My family actually has lived in Dunlap since the 1800s. Most of them farmed, so that's what I was used to seeing. But then I guess my first main passion or career was probably football. I started playing football when I was 8. I played all the way through college. I got a scholarship to Truman State University. So that was really my first career where I ever actually put all my focus and efforts into something that was, stretched out over a period of years. So I still love football. I love watching the game. And then while I was in college, I was like, okay, what do I want to do next for my career? It was pretty eye-opening because you have all these options and you think something's just going to maybe be laid out in front of you, until you become an adult. Yeah, until you become an adult, most of your life really is just laid out in front of you. You go to the school you live in, you just kind of move forward with what's right in front of your face. So I guess I explored the corporate world, looking into it. I never joined it, but a lot of people you hear about in Peoria, Caterpillar is huge. I was in Missouri going to school, so I know Boeing was huge out there. So a lot of my other classmates, probably most of them went on to more corporate jobs, especially in my business school. I studied finance at when I was in college, but I really wanted to go the entrepreneurial route. And the first thing that just seemed real simple and made sense and attracted me right away was real estate. I didn't necessarily think I want to get into mortgage lending. It was initially just real estate because I don't know, I was pretty good with numbers, studying finance. And I guess I would just be like, all right, if I was to buy this house and it rents for this much, about how much money would that, profit after maybe repairs and, mortgage, taxes, insurance, all that. And I'm like, wow. It seems to me like real estate could outperform stocks, and you can get an unfair advantage in real estate because if you're competing in a local market, and you become an expert in that local market, you're going to have more of an advantage than, let's say, stocks, which I initially was super interested in stocks that led me to finance through my youth. But I kind of realized through a lot of learning and research is it's going to be really hard to beat Wall Street. There's these hedge funds, huge institutions that are constantly studying, really global stock market. And it's I'm not going to be able to beat those people on my own. Maybe I could pick a couple good stocks here and there, but to me, it seemed like real estate was something I could actually compete and beat these national, banks, lenders, and companies. So one of the first books that I read was Millionaire Real Estate Investor by Gary Keller.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right. Have you read that one?
Oh, yeah. I've read all the Millionaire Real Estate, the agent, the investor, even the commercial one. Yeah. They're great.
And it's funny because most people that you and I deal with in the real estate business, a lot of them have read, Gary Keller books. And that was a really good one to get started in learning. So really, while I was my last couple of years of college, I'm like, all right, I'm going to probably get into real estate. I really consider becoming a real estate agent.
Come to the dark side. No.
Yeah. I really was thinking about doing that. And somehow I just kind of got led into mortgages, which is in reality, it's probably the closest thing to being a residential realtor as far as shoulder industries go. But I had a friend that was doing mortgages that was he was 2 years older than me. So he had graduated, found a job in mortgages, and the company he was working at was hiring, and he kind of like, it was a real small company. There was only like 4 people at the time. So he suggested I look into it, and I interviewed, and I ended up working with this company that I still have a good business relationship with. And that's how I got started into mortgages. I actually, when I started the job, I still didn't really understand what I was supposed to do. Like I interviewed, I'm like, okay, so I'm going to give people loans. Okay. Like I thought you go to a bank to get loans. That's what most people think.
Oh, yeah.
You don't really think of dedicated mortgage companies. So I signed up for this job. I just kind of believed in the people that were doing it. I thought there was good potential, and learned as I went. And I started with zero knowledge whatsoever. And that was, I think I'm going on my 8th year now.
So when you got into that, and I find it interesting because a lot of times I find entrepreneurs get into things, I would say blind, like you don't know what you're getting into. And sometimes that's the best way, because if you did, you wouldn't jump. Right. So when did like the mortgages and that ownership go from like a job to like, this might be my thing? Was there like a specific like client or a mentor or like a moment that shifted for you?
I would say it was within the first week. It
Oh,
was
wow.
immediate because it was commission only, and now at this point, after doing that, I would never work for a salary. I
Ooh,
just
talk
wouldn't
to
do
us
it.
about that, because everybody thinks like it's a little safe, right? And I was like, nothing's safe with the salary.
Yeah, that is a lie that corporations tell people, is that your salary is safer than commission. Because if this corporation is able to pay you, let's just say an $80,000 salary, I mean, you're going to be generating profits probably double that for the company, or else they wouldn't pay you that. And they can fire you anytime they want. So a
Mhm.
salary is not guaranteed. They could fire you anytime. Commission, I think it's less risky because, well, and let me put it this way. Yeah, I'm in financial services, sales. There's certain jobs where a salary does make sense.
Mhm.
Like a teacher or a firefighter. Like I'm not saying anything bad about that, but when you're in the world of business and sales,
Mhm.
a salary is a scam, in
Mhm.
my opinion. But what drew me into this right away was my friend was making commission, and I saw what he was making, and I was like, wow, and he was performing really high. So it wasn't just like he was some average mortgage lender. He was only 1 year in, and he was on a team, but he
Mhm.
was doing a really good job. But I mean, I saw that and I'm like, wow, all these companies like Caterpillar and Boeing that I got denied by, like, you're making way more than I'd be making there. And I'm like, well, there's no barrier or restriction to why I can't do the same production you do. Like, it's not
Mhm.
like you have some magic wand that I don't have access to. So I just put in the work, and I think I was rewarded far more than if I took any kind of salary job.
Yeah. So you basically took your old football work ethic and did the reps and got in the game and put together your strategy then.
Yep, that's it, really. And I do treat it the same way that a football coach or team would do things, because that's what I was used to. And when
Mhm.
I went to college, I was fortunate to have like amazing coaches on the college level, like Hall of Fame level, especially when it came to the defense that we ran. And there's no huddle, everything's hand signals. So the communication, it's the same for a real estate transaction, which, as the lender, once you go under a contract, I'm kind of the quarterback of my side of things. But it's as simple as this. Like in football, everybody looks over to the sidelines, and we have a hand signal. It'll be something like this, that, there's 3 components to it, and everybody has to do their job based on those hand signals. And if one person messes up, because it could lead straight to a touchdown, and
Yeah.
just for one person not doing their job. So, and I've had that happen to me where I didn't do what I was supposed to do. The other team runs for a whole touchdown, and it's all my fault because I didn't do my simple job. So that's really how it is in real estate, though, because if you don't do your part of the transaction, everything else is connected. So,
Mm.
yeah, exactly. So, and we're all essentially, when you go under contract on a house, or you're trying to go under contract, the buyer, I mostly deal with buyers, not sellers, but the buyer's agent and the lender, we're running a play, really.
Mm.
So if we're not on the same page, and the people we're competing against they're going to beat us. They're going to get their offer accepted instead, because they can adjust on the fly, remove contingencies, communicate so the buyer's okay, maybe raising the price 5 grand because it only changes their payment 35 a month. It doesn't need to take 4 hours to decide that.
Yeah.
So
No, I love that. So what do you see on that side? And I like it as a strategy of my mind goes to the pre-approval, and being able to like set the playing field, right? And so the question with that is when you're starting to set all the team members and the field, if you will, what do you notice people struggle with the most in the mortgage process? Where do you see that like confusion or like you said, like you mixed up those hand signals? Like where did you see that happen the most?
I would say uncertainty is the biggest problem for buyers. They're not certain in terms of what's their payment going to be, how much cash do they need, what kind of interest rate are they going to get? Is there different ways we can structure this to maybe put less money down
I like
or
that.
lower the payment? So I would say the main thing, if you want to be successful as a buyer, a buyer's agent, and a lender, is you need the buyer and the realtor. Everyone needs to have the highest level of certainty. So
Mhm.
if whatever service provider you are in the real estate industry, if you can increase the certainty for the client, you're increasing the value every single time. So what that might mean is when someone's going to look at a house and they're like, hey, there might be 5 offers on this house. It's brand new on the market. It's in Dunlap. It's a good price. Well, ahead of time, the buyer and me, the lender, and the buyer's agent should all get connected. And we're
Mhm.
going to talk about different scenarios. Like, how can we win this offer? Not just wait until you go see it and you're for sure. Like, let's get a plan ahead of time. So
Yeah.
before you even go to the house, if it's real serious about it, you want it, I'll send you, all right, if you offer at this price, and this price, here's your different payments. And every
Mhm.
$1,000 you change your price, if you need to adjust it on the fly, it's going to change it about $8 for every 1,000 you go up or down. And then we're going to talk about what if there is multiple offers? How are we going to win? Because it's not just about price. Terms are usually more important than price. You know that as a real estate professional. So what we could do is let's see. And I'm never ever going to be like, don't get a home inspection or do get one. That's up to them, like in the
Mhm.
agent to talk about if you want to do a home inspection. But the appraisal, if someone's putting 10% down or 20% down, we might get an appraisal waiver. And I can find that out up front. A lot of other lenders can, but they rarely ever do. They rarely will check this when the client send in the offer, maybe because there's a communication gap. But
Mm.
I'm going to say, let's try to get that appraisal waiver because that appraisal waiver, you might offer 255 and someone offers 260. They might go with your 255 offer if they know there's not going to be an appraisal. Maybe for some reason that seller's a little concerned. So that's just one example.
I like that you're preparing a playbook for them to even start the process. And I haven't seen another mortgage broker do that where it's saying if you're at this price it's this, and then if you go in increments of 1,000, because that's easily what we think is like 10,000 whatever. If you look at it over that course of 30 years, which is typical amortization on a residential loan, is like it's not that big of a deal. So if you know like, hey, my monthly budget could handle us going up 10 or down, down 10 or whatever, like how you put it, you have more confidence going in. And the more confident team that knows like all the tools that they have in their toolbox to play has more strategy up front. And I call it like lever I can pull, right? So if I can put that in there. So I want to move for a second from the moment when things stop being like hypothetical in a sense. And what was the moment that you realized? So at this point in your journey, as we're talking, you're working for somebody else. When was the point that you said, like, I need to build my own business? I need to start my own company. And what was also going through your head? Like, what's at stake if you didn't make the move?
Yeah, well, I really like that question because it's fun to think about, and I would say it comes up multiple times, usually before it happens. Maybe not for everybody, but
Oh
for
yeah.
me, it was kind of like I had like a couple moments over. I was probably on this other team at this other office for I'm gonna say like 5 years, probably
Okay.
5 years. So after probably 3 years, I had thoughts of it, decided against it, for
Yeah.
a variety of reasons. It was a great setup. I mean, honestly, I don't regret working with them at all. It was the best start I could have because it was like the highest number of leads and business activity in one building, probably in all of central Illinois. So
Mhm.
I was able to just get planted into this office that had like 20 realtors working in it and earn a lot of their business from, they see me every day. So it's not like I have to like make an appointment to go talk to these people. So that gave me a huge head start. But I'm sure any entrepreneur or business person, you start to learn that like whoever controls the leads, that's the main value you can have or skill you can have as a mortgage lender or realtor, is being able to generate your own lead. If you rely on somebody else's leads, rightfully so, they help you get leads, like you pay them money for that. It's a tax really.
Yeah.
But
Cost of doing business. Yeah.
yeah, cost of doing business. Nothing wrong with that either. There's
Mhm.
people that work on other teams and make more deals and probably more profits than me that are on a team. They're just great at closing deals and they're not a lead generator.
Yeah.
I want to be the lead generator because I can attract the type of lead and business interaction that I want.
Mm.
For through my own branding and marketing, like I do business a certain way. It is a little different than the last place I was working. And I just decided I didn't need the other company's leads anymore. It's almost like me working these other company or person's leads was
Mhm.
getting in the way of me generating my own leads. Because I
Uh,
got to the point where I was probably 50-50. I was like 50% are just my self-generated leads, 50's from the company. And it just didn't mix really well, actually.
oh.
Yeah, it slowed down my growth of generating my own leads by working those other ones, essentially.
That's interesting. So now you're at a 50-50 standpoint. I like to talk about the emotions because there's a lot of emotional headspace, if you will, when you go from like disconnecting. I always tell people the crab story when they were starting out on their own. So what did that feel like? Was it exciting? Was it terrifying? And what specifically were you afraid of in that moment? What finally got you to make that jump?
I would say it's definitely stressful. Like it's an internal decision. I care about other people like that I do business with a lot. So I think that the main thing that stressed me out would be like, oh, these people gave me an opportunity. Like I don't want to do them wrong or let them down. And I would say the best thing you could do if you're in that situation is communicate. If these people really care about you, they're going to listen to you and they're not going to be mad that you're experiencing growth. Initially, that's probably where I was like way in the beginning. I'm like, oh, like these people are just gonna like fire me, if I, like they're
Always
gonna
be
try to like,
prepared for that. Always be
yeah,
prepared for that. Yes.
that's true too. That's
Yeah.
true. And I would say you should always put yourself in a position where if you get fired, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
Uh, that's
100%.
that's my advice.
Buy
But
more investment property and you'll be fine.
yeah, yep, exactly. But I guess it was just my main concerns has always been other people. I actually had zero fear about like, can I generate this business? Like I know I can. That didn't concern me at all. It was more just like, well, these people help me out, so like I would like to help them out too and do the right thing because I got some knowledge and skills from these people that I was working with. But it was definitely worth doing. I was more stressed in the position I was in, working somebody else's leads, building someone else's business than focusing on my own. So yeah, the main thing is always for me always been how will my decisions impact other people that depend on me?
I love
Maybe
that.
somebody loses their job if I'm not bringing in this money. But then again, I'm like, well, that's not my business. That's not my responsibility. It's your responsibility to keep, your employees with enough work, not me. So that's where I kind of changed my mindset.
I love that because I call it the zog, your zone of genius, and staying in that zog that gives you the most energy, and it's also the best use of your skills and your mindset. So once you made the leap, walk me through what those first 90 days on your own looked like. Was it harder than you expected? Was it easier?
Well, it's kind of different the way I did it, I think, because I got to the point where it kind of went in a couple phases. The first phase was I was like, hey, I'm still with the same company and the same team, but I'm not going to take any of your leads. I'm still going to like work under you guys, but I'm only working my own leads. I don't want any company leads because it's just getting in the way of my other clientele kind of.
Mhm.
So I did that. And I was also like, because this was a bigger company than what I am, not huge, but I mean, they had like, maybe 15 or 20 people compared to where I'm at now with like four.
Mhm.
So they had licenses in other states. So I was
Mm.
like, I'm like, let me try to go out to South Carolina and generate some business out there. Let me go to Florida. I had friends in the area, met with realtors out there. I'm like, I'm going to do some business development.
Mm-hmm.
See maybe if I can recruit for you guys. I focused on a more business development, but still with that same team. And I did that, and it just wasn't right. It wasn't a good fit for either of us, I think. It was almost unnecessary. The goals weren't aligned. So then at that point, I took some time off because I was like, all right, I'm probably not going to stick around with this same group, but I'm not totally sure. And I have rental property. So I had 3 houses I was like in the process of renovating and either going to rent them out, burr them and get, refinance, pull some money out, or sell them.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, I'm kind of having like an internal, like figuring out what's next. I'm going to focus, instead of paying people to do all this work, like I'm going to go do this work, mostly my own, and flip these houses this summer. It was summer of 2024. So I took like 4 to 6 months off of mortgages. And yeah, so then I got started back up October. So that October time span, it was kind of just like getting accounts set up, messing with the CRM, getting business cards, all the basic stuff just to get ready to roll.
Yeah.
And then all that time, I'm like, rates had dipped at that point. Actually, it was October of 2024. Believe it or not, rates were lower then than they are now, before the Fed ever cut rates, which is another topic.
Oh yeah.
But the consumers don't know that. They think that the rates were higher then, and they're just going to keep going lower if the Fed cuts rates. Not necessarily true. But at that time, it was a great refinance opportunity. So I just started like calling past clients, refinancing them, and I got pretty busy. And then the refis went away, and I just focused on purchase. So that whole first year, I think I was like 114 loans, like $21 million, something like that.
Damn, that's a little bit of a mic drop there. And I think every founder has this like this may not work moment. What was yours? Did you have one?
Not really.
Or like a pit stop? Was it like, yeah, okay, that's great. Now I'm gonna go do this and pivot.
Yeah, I pretty much know, like, because I've always gotten a good amount of loans in business. So I'm like, why would that change?
Yeah.
So I wasn't ever really worried about that. I guess the part that you do worry a little bit about is wow, I've got a lot more expenses now. So am I actually gonna make more money doing this?
Yeah.
That's always a valid question for anyone in this space.
And you just said like I have a proven, and I like how you stepped into it. You were working for somebody else, kind of learn the process, learn the system. You went to a 50-50 type of a model. So you kind of like phased out into it and then went 100% with your own clients. So you knew you could lead generate. You knew you could do that. And then when you made that leap, I love how you said like, what's the market of the moment, right? And that's where I think a lot of people, when they go on their own, they stop doing the successful tasks and like actions that got them to that point. They literally like pivot, like, oh, I'm here now. I'm gonna go do this. And they kind of like squirrel off into it. And I like that you stayed and said, like, I'm gonna just lean in and I'm gonna lead generate. I'm gonna do the business that I know. And you're coming in October, right? So technically you're like the end of the high season of new home buying. So it's like, what can I bring in? And so once you were really up and going, what was your overall strategy for growth? I mean, you mentioned starting with like refis, but did you have that like overarching, like, this is who I want John to be as a brand in this industry?
I would say my main target, and it's kind of always been this way, is most of my business comes from real estate agent referrals. And just doing it for several years, I have good relationships with probably a couple dozen agents or more. And it was initially focused on the people that are already helping and supporting my business. So I'm like, how can I show them as much love as possible? Now that I'm not working any other like company provided leads, I have time to dedicate to them. So I hired an assistant, and a lot of the work she does is just helping other agents market themselves. So really, my marketing and branding's focused on my referral partners. Like, I don't do actually any advertising. I don't have my name or face on any paid ad. All I care about is promoting my referral partners. And that's going to go a lot further. They're going to want to refer business back to me if I put them number one.
I love that.
Yeah. So all the people that showed me love, I was wanting to focus on them. And because there's categories of referral partners. There's some that it's like they're all in, And I'm like, I got to keep them all in, and I should reciprocate appreciation to them. So don't
Absolutely.
forget, yeah, don't forget about them just because they already send you business. And then there's like a phase two or category two, maybe where like they send you some business, but maybe you're not their number one lender. So it's like, well, they do like me and respect me. How can I like increase that
Mm,
by showing them more love?
yeah.
And then there's like a category below that where it's like they'll send you maybe one referral every 2 or 3 months. So they show a sign that like, yeah, they trust and respect you, but maybe they're just not used to referring to you. You're not top of mind.
Yeah.
And maybe someone else shows them more love. So I focused on all these categories. And then the fourth one is ones that I've never got referrals from, haven't met. And it's like, so I went and made it a priority to meet more agents,
Mm,
uh, focus
yeah.
on them. And also, too, past client referrals is probably like a quarter, maybe a third of my business. And so I got a PRM, a personal relationship manager.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of like a CRM, but they just market it as different. But I could get them all sent handwritten cards on a quarterly basis. I really focus on touch points on past clients because I have like 700 at this point.
I love
So,
that. Yeah. You can't
yeah.
forget those who have made you. And I like oftentimes, we kind of get complacent with the people that are in our sphere that know, like, and trust us, right? And we don't nurture them. And so I call what you're doing like reverse deal flow. Like if I help you, I know it'll come back. Like I'm not worried about it on the front end. Like I just know it'll come back. And I think you build a stronger brand that way because you're really coming from that intention of helping people where it's like if you're successful, I feel good. Like, and everything else will come and it's good with that. So I love that strategy for growth and how you're looking at each relationship of how do I increase the quality and the service that you're providing. And then also on the backside, like you're helping them create stronger businesses, which will hopefully then, again, reverse deal flow back to you on that side. I love that. So if I'm a first-time home buyer, and I know you haven't mentioned, that's in one bucket there, but if I'm a first-time home buyer working with you, what feels different about working with John versus a typical lender or going to a bank? How do you build that clarity into the experience?
I would say through consultation and education. That's the most important thing. The first time I talk to a first time home buyer, let's say a realtor sends me their contact, we're going to set a time to talk. And on that phone call, I'm digging to tell you something or educate you on something you don't know about. So I want you to leave the conversation having actually learned something.
Hmm.
And you can't, as a lender, expect them to even know what to ask. Most consumers just know about interest rate, and at the end of the day, the interest rate might be the third most important thing, depending on whatever their goals are. And there's so many programs and products and ways to structure a loan.
Mm,
There's a bunch of ways to do it. So it starts by I'm going to ask them questions. I don't call them and just tell them what I know. Like
mhm.
I ask questions that start with what and questions that start with how. I avoid questions that start with why. So, and that's going to open up a lot more. Like, honestly, all I need when I call somebody, I got the same questions or adjust them based on the person, but that just creates the conversation. So I really want to inform, educate, and consult them. And when they get pre-approved, I would say once you get your house under a contract, the underwriting, I'm probably the fastest lender in the market. I mean, maybe there's somebody similar. I'm not saying that it's not true. Really, really fast underwriting, like
Awesome.
really fast. I mean, like I've closed loans in less than 2 weeks, even condos.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, but I like to get all their documents up. So when I pre-approve you, I'm pre-underwriting your income pretty much every time. Where that means I want your pay stubs, your W-2s, not just your pay stubs and your W-2s though, because those are going to just show your gross pay on the W-2s. I want to see if you get base, overtime, commission. The underwriting, the way these loans calculate income, they're going to do a variable calculation or an average of the trend for overtime, commission. And most people have some type of variable pay, even if they're on a salary.
Hmm.
So I want your year-end pay stub from the last 2 years also.
Yeah.
Or I want a written verification from your employer breaking that all down. We might not have to do that. If you're writing an offer on a house, I can look at it clearly and be like, listen, your debt to income, you make plenty enough. Verbally to answer a lot of those questions. We can do that. But
Mhm.
if you're not writing an offer on a house today, you might as well give me that. I'll get it pre-underwritten, and then we know exactly what your income is when you buy the house. There's no change because an income calculation and underwriting is the main thing that's going to cause a file to have your terms change or potentially have you get denied if that's wrong. I do more work up front so we save time later, but the clients are going to understand and appreciate that because it gives them, again, more certainty, and more certainty means more value.
Yeah, and I'm sure your agents love that you work with too, because they know if you're underwriting them and you're doing all this upfront work, then like the deal can flow through faster, stronger. It's less work on their side as well. So I love that. I love that process. So thanks for sharing that with us. And then in moving into like how I've enjoyed hearing how you transitioned out and how you're starting up, you're hiring, if you like Gary Keller, your first hire should be an assistant, right? So you did all the checks and that. And then talking about like as you've really grown your business and really leaned into that customer experience and the service work, what has been like one decision that may have looked small from the outside, but radically changed how your business runs?
I would say automation.
Oh, yes.
And that scares consumers. So I don't put that, it's not what it sounds like, really, because
Yep.
there's no automated decision maker. Like, I'm making the decision, but it's going
Mhm.
to help me streamline communication. And so the client won't even see it as automation. I'm not using like AI to send you like maybe, okay, maybe for emails it'll clean up my emails, but I'm
Yeah.
not
It'll
using that
clean up
as,
our grammar where it's like, yeah, yeah, make this a little bit better. Okay, good. But the intent is there, right? The content. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So like you're dealing with me still, but what I'm going to do is, for example, in automation, when you fill out my application, it can tell based on what you entered for your income initially, if you have commission or bonus or certain factors, that it'll pre-populate what documents I need from you, and then
Hmm.
automatically send an email request to you to upload these certain documents so that you know ahead of time. And it might, I'll tell you, it might request one or two things it shouldn't, or not, but it's going to give you and me a head start on moving things forward. Same thing with like any new lead that comes in. Like, I do some
Yep.
Zillow leads. So the Zillow will come in, and as soon as I receive it, the client is getting put on a drip campaign automatically,
Hmm.
which means they're going to start getting emails on a certain sequence from me. They go into my CRM automatically. And
Yeah.
all those things do convert more people. And what I really like about that initial email is when I call them, they've already seen an email from me, so which has my name on it. So
Hmm.
they recognize when I'm like, hey, it's John. They're more familiar with me. Like, I've noticed a big difference.
That's awesome. And I think what I usually say with AI is, for example, at the Kim Group, like we are AI empowered, but human engaged, because you cannot lose that element. And I love how you talked about automation helping you really show up how you want to show up as a brand, right? Is that email gets out. Like you could be in meetings all day, but that email still gets out, still gets timely, still gets there. So I love that. And automation is not a bad word when it's used properly and within the brand, right? And so I want to zoom in where you're building your business. So right here at Keller Station. And you definitely had options when it came to where to home base your business. So why did you choose Keller Station? Like what about the development or the campus and this vision resonated with you and your business?
Well, I'm really happy that I came to this office. The best part really is you called it a campus. So it's really a campus. A bunch of other businesses. I can interact with people. There's a coffee shop, the best coffee shop in Peoria, CXT Coffee's downstairs. It's kind of crazy because it's always full with people, which is kind of surprising. Like, any day of the week, there's tons. People just congregate there.
Yeah.
So I think that's cool because I'm in an office up here that I'm happy it's isolated. It's just me in this small micro suite. So
Mhm.
I can get a lot of work done without interruptions. And I used to work in a real busy office that had, 20 plus realtors, like 40 plus people overall. And it was like an open concept type of office. Everyone everywhere talking, which was really fun for a while. I liked that. But this building's nice. And the location's great.
Mhm.
It's right next to the Rock Island Trail. So I can take a break when it's nice out and just take a walk on the trail. They've got SIDS in the park, and a nice park right next to this. Different businesses. There's financial advisors, engineers. Lincoln office is right over there. There's counselors, and they're putting in Jonah's Seafood. So once they put in Jonah Seafood, like what better place could I go to take out some realtors or some clients? Like, let's just go get some food.
Mm-hmm.
Right down there. And it makes it easy for me to set these appointments because I know I'm going to be within walking distance. I'm like, pretty much anytime we'll just go over there and meet.
Yeah, one of the things when I got into developing and looking at our office was like if I could have a coffee shop and a bar and maybe like a restaurant right downstairs, that'd be great. And then I wouldn't have any of that travel time, that gets lost. And so, I mean, you have all that. You have, the missing sit there for some happy hour, and Jonas is definitely going to have some happy hours, and there's more things to come. So I can't share on all those, but there are more things to come. So appreciate you sharing that. So, and you've had some pretty great success. I always follow our family members' businesses, if you will, in that. So since moving to Keller Station, what have you noticed that has changed in your business? Is it, in terms of visibility or client experience or even in a collaboration? Because we do have some real estate agents there. We have a title company, at Keller Station. But just kind of what's changed with yours? Like, is it, what's different?
I forgot to mention Miller Title because they're the most important business to me in this building. Really, because it's not every mortgage company has a title company conveniently in their building. So when we do refinances, I can just tell the clients like, yeah, we'll just close right downstairs, and I can communicate with them real easily for things on the transaction. So forgot them. So
Yeah.
shout out to Miller Title. They're
Yeah.
amazing.
Terry and the crew do great.
Yeah. So I guess as far as like, what have I noticed different moving in here? Well, this is really my first office.
Oh, yeah.
So but I will say what I do notice is that I think it makes me look more reputable being in a building like this. Like it's a nice building. It's very, very professional and welcoming. I'm a newer, smaller business brand,
Mm-hmm.
So if I was in some, let's say like, I don't know, some kind of rundown building, like the services and everything's going to be the same. But when I meet a client for the first time, let's say they're from Zillow or they found me on Google, they might be like, this building is like a little, I don't know, like, around Peoria, there's some commercial buildings that are kind of empty looking and
We'll sketch you walking in. Yeah. Yeah.
it feels safe.
Yeah.
It feels safe and inviting.
Well, I appreciate you saying that because one of the unique parts, and you mentioned microsuites. So for those that are listening that don't know what a microsuite is, it's a spin off of like a rework, but what it is it's a designated office suite, right? So it's not the co-working like you talked about, being in that building with 20 different people talking. And I did that back in my consulting days. And I mean, everybody always had headphones on because you can't focus, but it provides the lounges. So you in essence have a waiting room to your business where your clients can wait and then come into your office. It has the kitchenette and a lot of those like shared services with the printer and the copier and stuff like that. And my intent when we created that was in that upper floor, there's that beautiful historic glass because Keller Station, the building you're in, was built in 1935, I think. So when we rehabbed it, it was honoring the history of the building and how it came about. And all that glass block was actually behind really bad 1980s wood paneling. And so
Really, the glass here, because I have the glass, I'll turn my.
Oh yeah. Yes. That and you have the cool, I like the cool little S in that. There it was behind paneling or it had paint on it. And so
Oh, wow.
oh yeah, I'll when we replay this, I'll have the team post some pictures here to show you. So if you're listening, go ahead and head to YouTube so you can see some of those. But it was and nobody knew it. I was just like, "Hey, can I pull off this paneling?" And they're like, "What?" And I pulled it off and I was like, oh my gosh. And I just kept pulling off and pulling off. This is before we engaged in the building, just walk through. And the before and after is interesting, but I was like, how do we honor the intent of the Keller Station development where I really wanted this to be a place for small business owners to come have a spot right along Knoxville, which is a highly traveled street, but in a very professional setting. So like exactly what you just said, where and affordable, right? So it's a lot of times when people are stepping out, they go for like the cheapest spot from a rental standpoint because like that's what I can afford. Yes, but what's it costing you? Like what's it costing you to not be in the right location? What's it costing you in drive time to drive to those meetings versus walk downstairs and close, right? Or walk to the coffee shop. And even that proximity I have a word I call pollinated collisions, where you kind of collide with somebody, you transfer some information and you connect. And that's anytime I go to CXC Coffee, I feel like I either get a deal, make a deal, or have a connection with somebody. And that's what I love about that campus. And you're talking about is there are a lot of businesses, small businesses on that second floor that really that was the intent. It was to basically get those small businesses out of their home or out of the old blighted buildings, we'll say that, and into a place where they can really expand their business and grow with that confidence of being like you said, a valid business, right? When you come and you're stepping out. So I like that. Love that. Let me give you the last Keller Station question here. And if Keller Station disappeared tomorrow, what would you miss most from a business standpoint?
What would I miss most? I would say kind of what I described in the building about what I like about it. It's like I like just being able to walk up here into my isolated office because at home I have a 3-month-old baby,
Yeah,
three
that's right.
dogs, a cat, a wife, who I all love. But it's nice to just walk up. In the morning, you're drinking your coffee, you're waking up. It's nice to just go straight into my office, no interruptions.
Yep.
But then when I want to go take a break, I can go down to CXT and there's plenty of people to connect with and a real lively environment. So
Yeah.
that balance is really nice. So that's what I would miss most because I don't know any other office buildings in Peoria that have like a coffee shop and going to have a restaurant and this nice office space. I guess the closest thing is like those offices over by Poor Bros in the Heights, but there's like few and
Mm,
far between, and those have an external entrance, so it's not even the same. But that's probably the
mm-mm.
closest,
Thing over
maybe
there.
person. But there's no coffee shop there either, so it's not
Mm-mm.
the same
Yeah.
thing.
So
This is
yeah,
way better.
this is way, but I have to agree, but I want to agree too. So when you think about the next few years, what are you most excited about?
I would say leading more people, like to help people replicate what I do instead of just
Mm,
being like, oh, everybody I do business with has to work for me. Like that's how a lot of people do things. I'm like, no, I'll help you set up one. You can come work with me to learn with the intent that if you want to keep working on my team forever, that's great. But if you want to grow your own business, for example, I interviewed a guy recently that is very impressive. Love to work with him. And I'm like, you can come work for me and I'll help you set up your own mortgage shop in Chicago if you want to go do that.
oh.
We can do it together, but any city you want to go to,
Hmm.
it's nothing. I mean, I don't want to say it's nothing, but it's not like a huge barrier to entry for you to start being a lender out there. It's just you learning how to make connections.
It's that playbook.
Exactly. Run the
Right.
plays and communicate because it is simple. It's kind of simple what you need to do, just if you want to do it or not.
Yeah, it's are you going to take those steps? Are you going to put in? I say this to my boys. It's like you just got to get the reps. You got to get the reps in. So,
100%. Like those phone calls I look at those as
oh,
reps. It's like
yeah.
you do something 10,000 times, then you're a master.
Hmm.
So it's all about the reps. And your boys play hockey. Is that right?
Yep. Oh yeah, they play hockey. Yeah, so when they get frustrated, like when they're learning a new skill, because we're study the game, right? So look and say, okay, I want to work on this. And my oldest will come in a lot of times and he'll be so frustrated. And I said, when did you start working on this? And he's like, here. I'm like, how many reps are you doing a day? And he already
Great
knows, yeah.
question, Mom. Great question.
And he already knows where I'm going with it, right? And he's like, "Here," and usually it's at the beginning of the season. There's all again, you're always leveling up, right? And I think one of the biggest things that I see in working with business owners is they level up and then they want to beat themselves up because they don't know the different tools that they now have at that level and they don't know how to use them yet. And I'm like, no, 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 no. This is like start of the new season, right? So okay, what skills
Right.
are we learning? What reps are we doing? How many calls are you making a day? Right? How many business network meetings are you getting to? And then it's a numbers game. It's learning from the reps. And so, with my kids, I'll say, okay, so you're doing this many reps a day. This I'm like, when should you see this show up in the game? Right? When should you see this show up on the balance sheet or the P&L? And they'll be like November. I mean, this is like October or August or something like that. It'll be like November, or like right around Thanksgiving time. I'm like, yeah. So you are not allowed to beat yourself up until that day. And they also know if you don't do the reps, right, it's going to take longer. And so
Yeah.
and I find like and I was an athlete too, but like coaching kids and coaching business owners there's so many similar, you'll get there. You're only 3 months in, but you'll get there. So it's a contact sport, right? Like it's just getting in, doing the reps, putting your head down, and the results will come. They'll come. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I do look at every new challenge as an opportunity to get a rep, or even if it's
Mm,
not a challenge, like someone wants to interview me or I get to interview somebody, I'm like, great, I get to practice interviewing somebody. I'm
yeah.
kind of new to that, truly.
Mm,
I haven't hired a lot of people, so I've interviewed 8 or 10 times.
yeah.
And then if
Makes it
somebody,
hard.
yeah, it is kind of hard, and same thing if somebody was like John, a big mortgage company, like I'm not interested in working for another company, but if it's a legit person, like respected, and they want to interview me, I'm like, let's talk. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I can pick up how are they talking to me and how can I talk to somebody that I'm trying to recruit.
I love it. So let's zoom all the way out for a minute, and that's a great transitions because when you've given us a lot of insight into the heart of your business, into your mission, and when you think about that heart behind Scheeler Home Loans, what's the mission? What behind all the transactions? And I know we kind of like the rate thing. I like to look at terms versus rate, so I like how you position that. But what are you really trying to do for people? Like, what do you want them to walk away with thinking like this is the heart behind John and his business?
Well, my business is 100% focused on the client first. I really care about realtors and I care about them too, but the client is always number one. So I want them to close on the home and know that one, I hope that the terms that or whatever we explain actually ends up being slightly better on closing day than what we talk about initially. And I want them to know that me and my employees always are honest and have the highest level of integrity. I also care that we work as hard as we can to execute. Executing on the highest levels is really what sets these lenders apart. And to do that, I want us to be the fastest closing lender. If we're the fastest closing lender, that means we're executing at the highest level. And that actually is going to lead to a better experience. Because I've had some people ask me, like, I've told that to some agents, and this particular agent, I do business with him. He's like, I don't really care about, how, if it's the fastest, which is fine. I get it. But I was like, they just may not understand that the faster it is, it leads to a better experience. The longer the process is going on, actually, there's a stat, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but it's like every loans that close under 21 days have like the lowest denial rate. Loans that go on, if you write a contract over 30 days, the fallout rate goes like dramatically up the longer the transaction's going on, because so many things can happen.
Oh,
Whether it's
yeah.
the property, like the collateral ends up getting an issue, the person ends up losing a job or credit dips. So speed is super important to me. I just
Yeah.
want us to deliver the best experience for the client. That's really it.
Yeah. Is there, and I love the client focus. That's why we do what we do, right? And is there a client story that for you perfectly captures why you do this work?
Yeah, it's funny because I immediately had one pop into my head that had to be from 4 years ago. But this gentleman was so kind and was buying this house to support his family. He was working at a local manufacturing company, full time, overtime, hard hours. He had a past that he had recovered from,
Mhm.
and he had been incarcerated, and he also had I believe, a car accident that led to a judgment against him from years ago.
Oh, wow.
And the problem came up when we went to go into underwriting it. This judgment showed up on a title search. So it's something that we wouldn't have found out until that came up. He
Mhm.
probably may not even been aware of it because it was from maybe 20 years ago. And he needed help getting this judgment subordinated. We needed a lien subordination agreement because how liens work, the older the lien is going to go in first position. So if he wants to go buy this new house, any lender is going to say, hey, we need to be first position on this house. Like if you sell it, we get paid first. Just how it works, kind of common sense. But in order to do that, we need that lien holder from his car accident judgment to subordinate it. They can do whatever they want. They do not have to do anything. They can just ignore us. They could say, absolutely not, pay us the money, they can do whatever they want. They're in complete control, and
Mm-hmm.
they're an attorney. They're a law office. So, dealing with attorneys, like when they want to be in control, they're in control. That's
Yeah.
just how it works. We don't have power to make them do anything. And we had to convince them to subordinate the lien. And the guy, he was like, because I was like, listen, man, like you are going to need to talk to these attorneys and do whatever you can to get them to subordinate this lien. And I said, I would even make the argument that if you're a homeowner, you're going to have more stable housing. You're going to be more likely to be able to pay that lien off. He may have even been on a repayment plan or something like that. And he's like, listen, John, he's like, my background. He's like, I can't write like that. I really can't write very well at all. So I'm like, tell me. And I helped him dictate this. I didn't write anything for him. He told me what to do. He really couldn't write like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to help tell his story, because he changed his life. He found God. He's buying this to support his family. He's done everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I helped him convey his own message to this attorney, and the attorneys were in tears. They were crying. They were like, oh my gosh, like, yes.
Yeah, here you go. Here, take
we're doing this. Because at first they were like, absolutely not. They were kind of looking at him, looking at his record. They're like, we're not helping this guy out.
Mm-hmm. Black and white. Yeah.
Yes. And so sometimes you either got two ways to get things done. You can butter the bread. That's what we did right there. We buttered the bread, or you can lay the hammer down.
You can
only lay the hammer down when you actually have the power. In this case, we had no power, so we had to butter that bread up.
Oh yeah.
And the guy got his house. So that I felt great about.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. Butter the bread or lay the hammer down. Yeah. And sometimes you don't have the hammer. Like you said, you don't have the hammer to lay down. So
most of the time we don't. It's usually an illusion if you think you have a hammer. most of life is done through finesse and taking care of people.
Yeah. And because it's the butter in the bread, and it's helping people, just being a good person, right? The golden rule. So I love it. So fast forward, and that's a great story. So one, thank you for sharing. And I appreciate the integrity and confidentiality you navigated with that, because there are times where you're like, okay, let's keep that personal. And that's something I always trust with people, is like, if they're not telling me somebody else's details, they're not going to tell someone else mine. And I like that. So if we fast forward, let's say 10, 15 years, when people talk about you and your business, Scheeler Home Loans, what do you hope they say?
I would like them to say that they outworked everybody.
I love it.
Outworked everybody. And I'd like to say outproduced, but I outworked everybody with the highest quality of work. Like, I want them to be like, they have the highest quality of work. I don't care if there's somebody that does more. I want it to be the highest quality. And one thing that I don't know this, I hear it out there a lot, where people will be like, they don't want to work hard. They want to make a bunch of money and not work hard. I don't like that. That rubs me the wrong way. And that's a lot of, and I'm not saying I have a problem with somebody that lives their life that way, but I look at it like, God gave us these gifts. You're supposed to use it and maximize what you have. So if you're saying you don't want to work as hard as you could work and be as focused as you can, I think that's selfish. And I think you're leaving, you could serve more people. So I'm all about work hard. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care. And at some point in life, sure, you've done what you got to do. Maybe not everybody's that way, but that's how I am. I'm like, I'm going to put in the maximum effort and give it my all. And I expect my team to do the same. I'm not about that, like, just coast through life and honestly, working hard can make your life even easier.
Well, yeah. Is when you work hard and you actually build that skill set, right? That it's easier to step into the game. It's easier to get, things done, because you've set that skill set. And if people know you're going to be a person of your word and do what you say you're going to do, they're going to trust you more, which then they're going to give you more business and open up that gateway. I love that. I definitely believe that God gives us these talents and these abilities, and it's up for us to, hone them, right? Hone our craft, get it done, and really serve him in serving our clients. So I appreciate your time. And I'm going to do a quick lightning round of questions before we come to a close. So I want you to tell me, is like, first thing that comes to your mind. We'll go with 4 questions here. So what is one rhythm or ritual that actually helps you lead better?
I would say waking up early and being proactive with my clients and my pipeline before the day starts. At 8 is when people traditionally reach out to you. So I like to have a good amount of work done before 8 hits.
I love that. I'm a fan of the Morning Miracle by Hal Higdon. I got to think of Hal. I have to go back on
I've
that.
heard of that one.
Yes. Yeah. I was like, I'm thinking of my half marathon training here. All right. Second one. What is one belief about business or money you've changed your mind on?
I would say it's not all about cash flow. It's about long-term equity, and it's about the long term, I would
Mhm.
say, because I used to be obsessed with cash flow for using rentals as an example.
Yeah.
Uh, but I'm sure that could carry over to a business too. But it's not all about just cash flow. It's about equity and value.
Yeah, I tend to coach of like, there's usually like three separate revenue streams you need to be looking at. Like, what's my instant money? I can go out and I can like feed the cash flow that we need. What is kind of that like long-term strategy growth play for both the other two? And then what is that long-term equity hold? Like, what can I, if you think about residential investment properties or even investment properties in general, yes, the cash flow is there, right? But the long-term strategy might be to build the team to support a bigger portfolio, where then that third is if I sell this, then I get big piles of cash, right? So it's kind of those three different ways to look at growing your business. So I love that. All right, next question. Book, podcast, or mentor that has outsized impact on the way you think.
I would say I came across a mentor over the last couple of years named Brian McCray. He's a mortgage lender by trade, but he's really a coach. And I mean, he's all about relationships. I would say he's like a business relationship guru. And, he's a Christian. I'd say he's got does things the right way. So he's had a real big impact on the way I see things, I would say.
All right. Shout out to Brian. That's awesome. All right. Last one. What is one sentence of advice to the earlier version of you who was, I mean, you weren't really scared to start, but who may have like had that second, like you said, there's a little bit of hesitation. So what would that one sentence or one piece of advice, if you will, that earlier version of you that you would give today?
I would say, how would I word this? I would say put me and my family first rather than worrying about and I care about all my business partners, but I just have to say put your family first. Just put your family first, as simple as that is, over others. Even though not saying that they don't matter, but your family's got to be number one and everything else comes behind that.
Yeah, for me, it's God, family, and then there's a list down below. And I don't think that's selfish. I think it's preservation, right? Because if things aren't right at home, it tacks on your mind and it pulls you, especially as a business owner, in different ways. So I greatly appreciate that. So, John, thank you for being here and for being so open about the fears, about the strategy, and the purpose behind what you're building. For anyone who's listening, who's thinking about home ownership or wants a clear path in place through that lending process, where is the best place to find you?
I would say you can call or text me directly. I'm very easy to reach at 309-678-7531. You can also reach me over email, jon@scheelerloans.com. You'll probably see it written out somewhere. I got Facebook and Instagram. So you can just add me as a friend on Facebook. If you've seen this, feel free to add me. Follow me on Instagram. It's Scheeler_home_loans. But yeah, the phone's the easiest way to get a hold of me.
Perfect. And we'll put those in the show notes for anybody that is needing John and his service or wants to start engaging and get ahead of the game and get their playbook starting to get structured up there. So if John's story resonated with you, share this episode with someone who's standing on the edge of that big decision. This has been Tenant Talk on Real Talk with Katie Kim, real stories from business owners building at Keller Station and the strategies they use to create more clarity, control, and legacy in their lives and in their work. I'm Katie Kim. Thanks for listening and get in the game. Let's go. Before we wrap up, if someone in your world needs this conversation, a founder who's carrying a lot and ready for clarity, send this episode to her. These messages land deeper when we share them. And if you're in that space where you know your business can grow, you feel the potential, but the next strategic step isn't fully clear yet, let's talk. You don't need a new identity. You don't need to force a direction. You just need clarity that's aligned with your goals, your numbers, and the life you want to lead. I invite you to book a call with my team. We'll look at where you are, identify the real leverage points, and map the smartest next move, whether that's one of our free resources, a workshop, or deeper support. Clarity creates momentum. Let's get yours. Let's go. The information in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not legal advice. It's not financial advice. It's not investment advice. Real estate development, like any investment, carries risk. Before you make decisions, you should always consult a licensed professional, your attorney, your CPA, or your financial advisor, to name a few, to make sure you're making the right choice for your situation. I'm here to share insights and strategy, but you're responsible for your own decisions, and each situation is unique. So make sure you contact your professional team to give you your specific guidance for your specific case, as each real estate development's different and unique and has its own challenges and opportunities.